This drawing right here took me the same amount of time as this drawing. While streaming and drawing, I have to draw people's characters fast if they happen to donate. So in this video, I'll be showing how I do that in the most efficient way. I'll be demonstrating this by drawing Jinx. So first thing you think of before you start a drawing is the pose. Usually what I do when thinking about the pose is that I open up a free 3D modeler online and I take the time to move every limb, but in this case, since we only have an hour, our best friend is Pinterest. I thought Jinx and Patrick Bateman would be a funny combination here. Next step is I take a low opacity brush and then I lower the opacity of the image, and I think you see where this is going. Outline some of the general shapes that you see in the drawing, like first the head, the direction he's looking, eye placement, nose, mouth, ear, jawline, neck. Once again, you don't need to get down every single detail since you only want a general idea of where everything goes. You just want a general idea of the proportions. You don't just take this traced image and run with it and start adding the details of whatever character you're drawing at the moment. What I like to do is I first flip it, see if anything looks a little wonky, liquefy it to make it more dynamic. Since I'm drawing a girl and not Patrick Bateman, I can also try to fit the proportions for that instead while liquefying before I get into the next part. Now that I have my new liquefied pose, I'm gonna take that and redraw it. In around 10 minutes, this is how far I've gotten. Personally, I feel like redrawing the pose makes everything a lot more expressive. I wasn't planning on having to do a voiceover for this drawing, but turns out I locked the frickin' when I start drawing, and I wasn't explaining my process at all, and I would jump in every 10 to 15 minutes to explain what I was doing. So after you do the pose, what you want to do is you want to use your sketch more as the line art. You're not gonna make a separate layer and trace over the whole sketch all over again. No, all you have to do is just basically clean up your sketch. When adding the clothes or the hair, I typically don't add a second layer if I'm really in a rush. Instead, I use an eraser airbrush and I lighten up the body, and then I start adding in the hair and the clothes. As you can see during my process, I use the lasso tool a lot in order to clean up the edges. For things that are going to be covering a lot more of what I've drawn, I do make a separate layer because you never know if it's a detail that you want to later take out. But if I do feel like it can work in the drawing, then I just merge it with the sketch layer. I didn't add a lot of details to the hands. I kept my movements pretty fast. It really is a lot of scribbling. I did add Jinx's gun to the drawing, and I don't know how to draw guns. I don't know their mechanical parts and everything. If you're drawing something machinery wise and you don't understand what's going on, in the end, the whole vibe of the drawing is gonna be messy, but purposeful messy. So if you scribble, it'll just blend in anyways. If you're trying to draw something quick, then there's no need to go so much into detail. All of this is supposed to help you with your perfectionism. This process changes for everyone. Some of you might go straight into coloring, but I do grayscale. Grayscale for me helps me do details in a pretty fast way, so if you guys would like me to make a tutorial on that, I am all ears. Lasso tool, best friend when it comes to making quick drawings. Instead of thinking of every fold for clothes or shadows in general, just make zigzag shapes and it'll end up looking fine. All of the details are pretty roughly added. Any buttons, any splashes of paint. Coloring for me is the same exact thing. You just scribble on the details, don't overthink it. If you see a color, add it. For finalizing the drawing, what I do is I add color dodge with a dark brown. I add shadows, rim lighting, some highlights, and then a background with a drop shadow, and that is it. So this drawing actually took longer than 1 hour, and it was right under 2 hours at 1 hour and 15 minutes because I ended up doing a full body, nearly rendered piece, pretty detailed, which is still really fast. It comes with a lot of practice. I have been streaming for around 4 months now, which means I've gotten pretty used to drawing with the time limit. I hope watching the process of me drawing this and watching the video helped you guys and gave you guys some insight on what you might be taking a little too long on with your drawings when you try to speed up the process. Thank you for watching, and bye bye!